Hi, I'm Steven Rector, Park Ranger with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. You're watching the West Point Lake Update, our monthly show of news, events, and information on and around West Point Lake. We've got a great show planned for you today. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with our first guest. Hi and welcome back. Joining me now is Darren Kelly. Darren retired from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers a few years ago. Darren, I appreciate you being on the show today.
I'm glad to be here.
One of the reasons that I asked you to be here today was 2015 is the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the West Point Dam.
Yeah.
In fact, that was on, I believe, June 7th, 1975. I wanted to talk to you about some kind of what the early days here at West Point Lake were like, and I understand that you actually kind of started before 1974?
I did.
What were you doing in those early days?
Oh, Lord. We were laying out our Schaefer Herd campground. We was laying out all of the other campgrounds and Davis areas where picnic tables would go, both good and bad. We made our share of mistakes, and I got to be part of the correction of that when we renovated some of them here. A lot of things has changed over the years as far as campground design and those kinds of things. Yeah.
What year did you actually start here at West Point Lake?
I started here in 1974, and I hadn't been long off of active duty. And I graduated high school in '69 and got drafted right after that, and then went to college, got married, and was working, and this was one of my jobs I was working on.
Someone had told me that you actually were on a tree cutting crew out in the lake. Is that true?
I wasn't actually cutting the trees, but I was, you know, we had 20-foot John boats, 20 horsepower motors on them, and we actually snaked those logs back up into a cove, and then you take a D8 and put a cable around it, and you pull them out, the tops.
So the way I understand that they raise the lake level to a certain sea level, mean sea level,
yes, sir.
And then said, okay, all the trees that are sticking up, go get rid of them?
That's right, that's right. They cut all of the shoreline you see here, is what they call the yellow line. They totally cleared that. But then once it got up to a certain level, we raised the lake up, and then we got in there and tree cut all of that tops. We had a barge out in the lake, and we had a clamshell on it and was picking them up that way, and just any which way you could. One funny story that I got, you would back your boat up and you would put a loop in your rope and you'd attach it to the tree and you would pull it out. Well, this is a pretty good size treetop, and I just eat some peanuts, just a little bag of peanuts, and I was laying over the back of my engine doing that, and the snake popped its head up out of a hole in the tree, was looking right at me, and it scared me so bad I think I had the hiccups for about 4 or 5 weeks. I don't know if it was the peanuts or the snake. You know, I was
we'll blame it on you got a bad set of peanuts.
I think it was a bad set of peanuts. I'm not afraid of snakes, but I did get pretty intimate with that snake there for a little while. Thank goodness it wasn't a cottonmouth, it's just a regular water snake, but who knows, you know, when you get surprised like that.
How did you get started with the Army Corps of Engineers? I mean, was that something that, like, you lived locally and saw an advertisement somewhere, or?
No, actually, after I was married, I was I was working here kind of sort of part-time permanent and and going to school and it's kind of sort of something I always wanted to do. I grew up in a generation when the lassie and the flipper generation, and this was my ideal, working outside in the environment and maybe being a small part of helping manage a resource. You know, no matter how you go about it. The Corps, we've gotten a lot of bad raps on things, but I think as far as a federal agency, there's not a better federal agency with more professional people in it than the Corps of Engineers. And I've worked with a lot of different people in agencies, so I'm really proud to have been a part of the Corps.
Well, Darren, that's a great point, and I'd like to take just a short break right there, but come back and talk to you a little bit more about this, so stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short message. Hi, I'm Steven Rector, Park Ranger with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I have with me Lee Threadgill, Senior Planner with the City of LaGrange, with an important message for our viewers.
Hi everybody, I'm here from the city telling everybody to get out and vote for Bark for Your Park. We have entered a national grant competition to win $100,000 for development of our very first dog park in the City of LaGrange. But we need everybody's help. It takes all hands on deck, all citizens to vote. You can vote every day at 2 different locations. One is the PetSafe Facebook page and the other is at petsafe.net/bark4yourpark. So please get out and vote. Our entry voting runs through June the 10th. And after that, if we do well enough, we'll advance to the finals and we will begin another round of voting June 17th through July 22nd. Thanks for your help. Bark for your park.
Hi and welcome back. Before the break, we were talking to Darren Kelly about his early experiences here at West Point Lake. Darren, I want to continue that conversation, but first I just want to, it started raining here, so I just want to thank the LGTV crew for keeping us dry under this canopy here. Our viewers are probably hearing a little bit of the sprinkling of the rain on that canopy, but I do appreciate all the work that everybody's done here to be able to still get this show filmed out here at Schaefer Herd Campground. And you said as you arrived that this is a pretty fantastic view of the lake right here.
It is. You know, it's where the Chattahoochee River comes down and the dam and where it was set on the bedrock years ago. There's a large lake that was here that was drained and then we re-impounded it. All of this was beautiful farmland, and when we started backing the water up to do the tree topping operation, you know, all land has a carrying capacity for the critters, and you know, the rabbits and the quail and what deer we had. There wasn't that many deer back in those days. Turkey was real rare to see, and Jim Hackley, who managed the Georgia Wildlife Management Area at the time, and the state of Georgia, along with the Corps of Engineers, we started a restocking program for the wild turkey. And the whitetail deer is the Virginia whitetail here. So.
Well, you've done a fantastic job with restocking the turkey, because I see turkeys every day. You can sit in our gatehouse to our campgrounds and watch almost flocks of them just cross the road. And
Jim Hackley did bring back the, he got the Canadian goose to be on the flyway. And the first, I mean, the plan was to move that flyway over this way a little bit, and they was gonna leave and come back. But they liked this area so much, they just started hanging out here, you know, over at the Callaway Gardens and here at the lake and on people's golf courses and different things like that. So don't blame me on the Canadian geese, blame Jim Hackley with that. But
how many years were you a park ranger here?
I was here from 1974 and retired in 2006.
So, I mean, just the vast amount of changes you've seen. I mean, because you were just talking about, you know, not very many turkeys, not very many white-tailed deer. By 2006, you were probably kind of
yeah.
the same way I was. You probably just saw them everywhere.
I did.
What kind of things as a park ranger were you doing in the late 70s, early 80s? I mean, I'm sure it didn't look like this. The visitation wasn't the same.
No.
I mean, just, golly, how did you guys communicate?
It was hard. It was difficult. The communications were. That was prior to the cell phones and the internet superhighway and all of that. And we had a repeater system. The Corps still has a repeater system along all of their river areas, that every place they manage. But at the same time, if I was in Franklin, Georgia, or in areas like that, or in the management area, I had no radio communication. I mean, it just didn't exist. But we were primitive. But I got to see everything evolve, and I've seen the new crop of professionals that has come on board with the Corps, and it's just improving on it. You know, we got out, we did our own surveys. We you know, everything we did. Our vehicles were not air conditioned. That's one of the great things. We finally got air conditioning in the vehicles after about 10 years. But our vehicles wasn't air conditioned. And can you imagine patrolling through one of these campgrounds at 10, 15 miles an hour with two windows down, and it's 100 degrees outside? Well, we were more known to be a roving ranger than a drive-through ranger, because it was cooler to get out and walk than it was to sit in that truck. But now the project operations manager, he had a Maverick, a four-door Maverick, and it was air conditioned. So on the weekends, the rangers that was working would kind of draw straws who got to drive his four-door
Now, did he know
Maverick.
you were driving the car with air conditioning on the weekends, or was that kind of under the...
I don't think he really knew that was happening, but if he did, he never said anything to us about it, because he you know, he knew it got real hot out here, and I mean, he didn't give us permission, but he didn't tell us not to either. So
I'm going to remember that one.
yeah, and it just a lot of good times. There was, you know, the reason we topped the trees like we did was for the fish habitat, and I think it worked out really well. You know, we got a good fishery here in the lake, and it only gets better. You know, it does make it difficult when we have rescue situations and things like that, and the visibility, if you dive in the lake's not real good either. But most everyone knows that. We had a ranger here for years. His name was John Anderson, and he planted a lot of these cypress trees out here. He's no longer with us anymore, but he planted them on the shoal areas and all, which, you know, take the place of buoys and those, and maybe saves some people their lower units on their boats.
Looks a whole lot nicer than having all the buoys out there all over the place too.
And it is. It's natural. And you know, early on they said they wanted to have a 300-foot setback. And it's really nice. I know it's difficult on the people that want to live on the lake and they want to see the lake, but when you get out and you ride on this lake, it's not like a lot of other lakes that you ride on and all you see is houses and buildings and commercial right there. And all you got to do is pull up to that dock and walk a few feet, and there you are at your house and stuff. I think there's been a lot of right decisions, a lot more right decisions made than wrong decisions made on this project, and the newer projects. I know we don't do none anymore, but the newer projects that's a little bit newer than West Point Lake have learned a lot and saved a lot of tax dollars, I think, over what we did here. And this project was built with two districts, the Mobile District and the Savannah District. The Savannah District, which which is all on the Atlantic side, that rivers that flow into the Atlantic. They actually did the construction of this project, or were over the construction. And then the Mobile district, which is all of the rivers that flow into the Gulf of Mexico that they manage, they did operations and maintenance. So there was a lot of coordination and cooperation between districts.
And I'm going to stop you right there, Darren, because that's a perfect segue, because project manager here now, Steve Logan, is going to be our next guest.
Yeah.
And he's going to pick up on that. And we're going to talk a little bit about the history and the development and kind of that timeline of West Point Lake.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I got to thank you for doing my segue for me right there.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you so much for being here, taking some time out of your day to talk about kind of what it was like here in the early days of West Point Lake.
And I like to mention Steve Logan. I worked with him at Lake Lanier and knew him from there. And this area is so fortunate. A lot of times we don't know how lucky we are until we don't have somebody around. But this area is so lucky to have a man of the caliber of Steve Logan to be the operations manager here, because not only because of his knowledge on his technical knowledge, but also on his ethical and beliefs as a human being. I just think I feel fortunate living in West Point that he manages, or is the operation manager here. And I just want to let everybody else in LaGrange and the surrounding area that we are very fortunate to have a man with his vision here.
That's a perfect introduction to project manager Steve Logan, who will be our next guest right after this short break.
Hello, I'm Susan Cromer, Park Ranger with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers at West Point Lake, reminding you that life jackets save lives. Life jacket loaner stations are located at our campground and beach area gatehouses around the lake. These life jackets are available for you and your family to use at no cost. Please take advantage of this free program and keep a close eye on your children while enjoying yourself at West Point Lake. For more information, please call 706-645-2937.
Hi and welcome back. I have with me now project manager Steve Logan. Mr. Logan, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Sure.
Before we get too far into discussions, I do want to point out that it's still raining outside.
Yeah.
We have an awning here that's protecting us, so we can hear the raindrops, and our viewers can probably hear that as well.
Yeah.
But we're staying dry thanks to the LaGrange television folks, and I really appreciate you coming out in the rain to do this interview today. I had on earlier Darren Kelly, and I'm sure you remember working with Darren, and we were talking about his early experiences here at West Point Lake and what it was like to be a park ranger in those early days. But I wanted to just have you on for a few minutes to kind of remind people about sort of the history of how this area developed.
Okay, well, you know, they've been talking about trying to harness this river since the early 1900s, but it really came into fruition in the 60s. By the mid-60s, they'd awarded the contract to build the dam. And then it took about 10 years to build the dam, the powerhouse, all the other structures, the recreation facilities. By the mid-70s, we had a completed project. So I don't want to get into all the specific dates necessarily, but that gives you a good general idea why, you know, when the project was built and so forth.
And I understand it's from Darren Kelly, it started in the Savannah district for construction and then transitioned over to the Mobile district for operations?
Yes, that's right. You know, I think at the time, the Mobile district was building the Tennessee-Tom Bigby Waterway. And there was a decision made in our South Atlantic Division office in Atlanta that since Mobile was tied up with the Ten-Tom, that Savannah should build the West Point project. So Savannah came in, they built the project, and then they handed over Mobile for operations.
I had tried to get one of the employees down there at the powerhouse to come on the show, but our schedules just didn't jive. So I wanted to talk with you just a little bit. But I think those guys are kind of underappreciated. They're down there in the powerhouse. They don't get seen like the park rangers do out in the campgrounds and on television shows. Can you just talk a little bit about the importance of those powerhouse employees and what those folks are doing in the powerhouse?
Well, I sure can. You know, those guys are underappreciated. This is the first job I've ever had where I was associated with men of that kind of talent. And it just amazes me. We got mechanics, electricians that they are wired, no pun intended, to do that job in a very expert fashion. They are down in the powerhouse and you don't see them that much. But what they do is critical to the importance for this project to meet their mission. You know, generating power, and also they do a lot to ensure that the dam is fit and does this job. If they didn't do their job, then there's a possibility that we could have difficulties that might create a failure, and no one wants that.
So I'm imagining it's a lot of preventative maintenance and knowing what things should look like and when it doesn't look quite right.
That's right. These guys are skilled and trained to notice when things don't look right, whether there's emergencies, and they take care of it in a very quick fashion. As you know, Steve, this is a plant that is operated from the master plant at Walter George. And so these guys work Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. But they're subject to being called out any time. And they have to operate not only the turbines, but the gates that regulate the flow of water through the dam as well.
I remember, and I think it was last year before last, when we had all those ice storms come through, that I think they had to put someone down there almost 24 hours a day because they were concerned about communication lines going down or something of that nature?
That's right. You know, fortunately, the dam is designed in such a way there's lots of alarms. And since the guys at Walter George are not here, anytime an alarm goes off, they have to contact them, and they have to come up and look at what the problem is and discuss that with the operator at Walter George and resolve the problem. And sometimes they're here for an hour, sometimes they're here for several hours. Sometimes they have to stay on site because it takes their manual addressing of the problem to keep it going until they can find a better way to resolve it.
How many employees are currently down in the powerhouse, and do we have a rough number?
Yes, there's about 9 employees. We have a power project manager. We have 3 mechanics. We have 3 electricians, and we have what we call a maintenance mechanic. And we have a person who is we call them a maintenance control technician. They operate a database to keep the rest of the workers on track with all the preventive maintenance that's got to occur on a timely basis. And so they function together as a well-oiled team and do a fantastic job doing it.
The reason I wanted to talk about the powerhouse and do a little bit of that timeline and the importance of the employees was because 2015 is the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the dam and powerhouse. Now, like I said, because of security purposes, we weren't able to film down there, and I wasn't able to get one of those employees up here. So I really appreciate you coming on to talk about specifically the powerhouse. But I also wanted to touch base with you just on, it's kind of still early in the spring, starting summer. How are things going here at West Point Lake so far this year, in your view?
Well, in my view, things are going is really better than I thought they would be when you consider our funding reductions. We had some funding reductions. We had to basically, when you have that, you have to lower services because you can't cut the grass as much, you can't pick up as much trash. And but at the same time, we did that. We're having to get used to it. The public may have to get used to it a little bit, but we're bringing on volunteers. As you know, we've developed what they call the volunteer village, and we've got an exponential increase in the number of volunteers. And they're going to be doing lots of great things for us. And with that in mind, we always have a call out to the public. If they want to volunteer at the project, we can find something for them to do. And that makes this project go from good to great. And I'm glad about that.
Everybody's doing my job for me today. Darren Kelly earlier segued into you. You just segued into my next guest, our volunteer coordinator, Rebecca Fink. Mr. Logan, I appreciate you being on the show today.
Thanks a lot.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. and welcome back. I have with me now Park Ranger Rebecca Fink, the volunteer coordinator here. Hey, it's quit raining. You showed up and it just quit raining for us. So you brought the sunshine with you. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome.
I was talking with Mr. Logan earlier, and he kind of introduced the idea of the importance of volunteers specifically this year at West Point Lake. Could you just touch real briefly on the volunteer program and where we stand with that?
Well, right now we've got two different kinds of volunteering positions. We have, first of all, a new volunteer village that we've established over in Amity Campground and sites 12 through 21. They're full hookup sites now, got a septic system. Volunteers that stay over there stay throughout the camping recreation season during the summertime. And they get assigned different campgrounds, and they're the ones that you're going to see with red vests that are cleaning off your campsites, whether it's blowing them off or cleaning out the fire rings. We also have our beach areas. Yellow Jacket, Rocky Point, and Earl Cook have volunteers that help with the gatehouse, and they help monitor and open the beaches during the season.
And do you have any volunteer positions still available?
We do. We are still looking for volunteers for Yellow Jacket Beach. That's one of our more heavily used beach areas, and we're looking for a dedicated couple to stay out there during through September, Labor Day.
And then just give your phone number real quickly in case any of our viewers are interested in a volunteer position.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to contact me, please call 706-645-2937. I'll be happy to get you a packet of information and more detail on what's going to be involved, and talk to you personally and see if you're interested.
And then since you mentioned Yellow Jacket Beach as one of the volunteer positions, I wanted to talk to you for a few minutes today about the swim beaches, and they opened for the season on May 16th. But there's a little bit of an operational change at Yellow Jacket. Can you go through how those are going to operate this year?
Earl Cook and Rocky Point in the past have already been set up with an honor box system, and now this is also turned over with Yellow Jacket. So all three beaches are going to be operating the same as far as entrance. The beaches are from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week until Labor Day on September 7th. And as you enter these areas, there's a gatehouse, and at that gatehouse there should be enough signage to indicate that you should pull forward to a brown box. That's an honor box. And inside this honor box, you would pull out what we call a day use fee permit, and this is something that every vehicle needs to have inside the park. It's $4, and you need to, what this is, it's two pieces. You can take the part that goes on your windshield, this gets hung onto your vehicle, and you punch out the day that you've entered the park. This other one is an envelope, and you need to submit $4 cash or check. There is directions on who you write the check to, and put this inside that honor box. So this is a self-service station, and you need to be bringing exact change when you do this. And
the boxes, we've been using them at Earl Cook and Rocky Point for a couple of years now. They're very well signed. It tells you where to take the envelope, where to deposit the pass. And it's just $4 per vehicle, so you can legally, as many people as you can put in your vehicle, go ahead and do that, and you can get as many people into that beach area until they close, and normally it fills up during the holidays very quickly. Yeah, specifically Yellow Jacket. Yes, Yellow Jacket. We'll indicate where you can go. We've got the other two beaches. But you still have, if people are kind of worried about, it sounds like there's not going to be anybody there, it goes back to the volunteer program, you still have folks in those parks. Yeah, so our volunteers aren't required to stay in that gatehouse the whole time. You're going to see them in the beach area. They're going to be talking to you, maybe providing a water safety program, enforcing a little bit of what rules may be in the park. They're not going to be issuing you tickets, but they're going to give you some warnings. Hey, if a park ranger's coming through, you may want to get off the grass or get your dog off the beach. And the volunteers are also going to operate the life jacket loaner stations at those swim beaches as well, right? Just very quickly tell us about the Life Jacket Loaner program. Every single beach and campground has a Life Jacket Loaner station. This is a tree set up with various sized life jackets on it. And at our beaches, all you need to do is take one of those life jackets and borrow it for the day. Use it on the beach, but please return it. So Rebecca, one more time, give everybody your phone number if they have any questions about how to volunteer with us. All right, call me at 706-645-2937. That's the project management office, and ask for Rebecca Fink. You can also contact me through email at Rebecca, REBECCA.m.Fink, F-I-N-K, at usace.army.mil. Rebecca, thanks for being on the show. Some great information. I want to thank all my guests for braving the rain today and coming out and spending some time with me on the West Point Lake Update. If you need more information on any of the stories that we covered today, please like us on our official Facebook page, facebook.com/westpointlake.usace. And remember, always wear your life jacket when you're in, on, or around the water.